training the model, applying AI. So Canvas was a huge help with that. So we're going after things like optimizing our ion exchange columns, our spray dryers, and assets that we have, dozens of. And with respect to this use case, it's really a load balancing framework. So the next thing we're using this for is things like, RO water units, which kind of run in parallel. So it's load balancing can be applied to many problems. Every minute we're taking, 100 tags at the minute level and just passing it to Canvas, and then they're taking those tags that we've identified as kind of being important to make a prediction, and they're putting it into their model. So I don't care about the model. I just care that it predicts something that is useful to me. I want a model as a service. I don't want to maintain the model. I don't care about that, quite frankly. What I care is that the model is doing something good, and they're taking care of it. A little bit on the models. So there's actually 4 models. And this is kind of where working with somebody who understands kind of the modeling is important. So when we were discussing this with Canvas, they said, hey, every boiler needs a model, and we'll train each boiler independently on its own historical data. And then we have a 4th model that is basically an optimizer. And it basically just enumerates, 100,000 times to find kind of the minimum, point, which is kind of the highest, the lowest natural gas consumption to meet steam demand. The insight from even just going through the exercise of trying to come up with a model told us this is how you should operate it. And then in predicting mode, you get a little bit more benefit as well, right? So we also did kind of try to duplicate this idea internally. IT wanted to save a few dollars, to do this internally. What we found is we spent a lot of time on it, but there's really not that much, diminishing returns here, right? And this is something, I would recommend is, once you find something that works, move on to the next problem. There's so many low-hanging fruits at a plant, right? Trying to optimize, there's a point of diminishing returns here. And I think the bigger value is, deploy, measure, and move on, right? Because, these things take time, and the limiting factor is typically not, dollars. It's really human time, right? And your teams. We have this framework of load balancing now in our heads. So we're trying to apply that to other, load balancing problems. So things that are running in parallel, what's the most, just asking the question, what's the most optimum way to run those assets that are running in parallel?